Chapter 4. Uncle's Algorithm. The blade of the box cutter slipped, leaving a jagged, uneven cut on the craft paper. Mark pulled out a heavy form. At the top was a blue stamp from the closed Anderson Medical Lab, a registration number, and collection dates. No names, only digital identifiers. Sample A, his own blood, and Sample B, the epithelium from the glass I drank from. He didn't read the preamble. His gaze immediately darted to the very bottom of the page, to the summary. The first line was printed in bold. Direct paternity. Profile A/Profile B. Not confirmed. Probability 0.00%. Mark exhaled. The sharp, burning lump that had been hanging in the pit of his stomach for the last 3 days eased. He leaned back in his chair and closed his eyes. That's it. The end, she lied. It was simply a subtle, desperate calculation. The usual story about a girl from a small workshop and a wealthy family whose defenses were breached. He was already raising his hand over the waste paper basket to tear up the form when his gaze caught the small print of a footnote beneath the main statement. The geneticist wrote meticulously, with the dryness of a true researcher. Note to Protocol Number 408-B. Comparative analysis of the Y chromosomal profile revealed an abnormally high correlation of the alleles of the related marker. Direct paternity is excluded, however. The data indicate a close first-degree relationship in the male line between the fetus's father and Profile A. Probable uncle/second-degree relationship to the fetus. Mark's fingers froze. The office became so quiet that the wind could be heard rustling somewhere outside the window. What? He whispered into the void. He reread the paragraph again and again. The words blurred before his eyes, turning into a meaningless jumble of letters. Maternal relationship. Probable uncle. Mark had no brothers, except one. The only man in the world who shared Mark's Y chromosome was David. Mark rose abruptly from the table, nearly knocking over the massive chair. A roaring began in his ears, a dull, rhythmic sound, as if a powerful pump had been turned on nearby. 40 days ago, the funeral, the rain. He remembered that evening. He remembered how he had come to me, wild, broken, seeking refuge from guilt. And he remembered what Voronov had told him the morning after David's death, when they were retracing his car's steps over the last 24 hours. 3 days before the accident, David disappeared for 4 hours. The car was parked in the industrial zone, near the old warehouses, near the workshops. Mark gripped the edge of the desk, his fingers clenched so tightly that his knuckles turned white, and the paper form in his fist crumpled into a ball. I didn't sleep with other men. I didn't try to get the Anderson family's money. I was with his brother 3 days before he drove his car at 160 kilometers per hour and crashed into a concrete bridge support. Dry paper doesn't know how to sympathize. It simply states a fact. My dead brother took even that chance from me. The office door opened silently. Ruby Anderson entered, in a formal suit with a folder of reports and her hair perfectly coiffed, as if a living wind had never touched it. Mark, the lawyers sent over the amendments to the Singapore deal, she said, not looking at him as she walked toward the desk. We need to sign the papers by 6 o'clock this evening, otherwise. She trailed off. Finally, she looked up at her son. Mark stood at the table, breathing heavily. His face was as gray as the clay dust in my studio. A crumpled sheet of paper crackled in his convulsively clenched hand. What's wrong? Ruby frowned. Are you feeling unwell? Should I call a doctor? Go away, Mark croaked. His voice was strange, broken. What's with that tone? I'm asking what happened. Go away, he barked with such force that the crystal pendants on the chandelier trembled slightly. Ruby took a step back. For the first time in 40 days, genuine fear appeared on her smooth, well-groomed face. She glanced at the wad of paper clutched in his hand, then at her son, and silently left the office, closing the door firmly behind her. Mark unclenched his fist. He smoothed out the crumpled form on the table with shaking palms. He stared at the line about probable uncle, at this indifferent, cold algorithm that had just shattered his life into 1,000 tiny, sharp fragments. The child in my belly wasn't his. The child was the last piece of David left on this earth. Mark grabbed the car keys from the table and, without even glancing at his coat hanging by the door, ran out into the hallway.